This is Tracy saying, have you heard about a white light that trapped souls use to continue to reincarnate on Earth rather than advance? Yeah, I mean, that's a theory that's out there, but I think reincarnation is something we need. The Law of One teaches that, so I'm not against reincarnation. Then Estrick donated and said, it is time for me to share a message I received about 3 years ago. Great understanding by Yeshua is coming. Questions answered for all with love. 99% of working class people have nothing to fear at all. Well, that's great. I'm glad that you got that message, and I would agree with you. I'm so freaking obsessed with this stuff. What a time to be alive. Bacapalo donated and says, isn't there a crystal-based flash drive? Yes, I mean, crystals take many forms, and you could argue that, some types of optical storage of data involve crystals. So yes, that explains why you could build a craft out of a crystallized type of entity. And, it's all good stuff. But anyway, Scott, we're sorry about the moderation, but, you got to be careful what you say. Anyway, Giant Healing, we appreciate you, buddy. So thank you. If I am correct, these craft looked somewhat like a bell. They had portholes around the upper portions, and they had 3 hemispheres 120 degrees apart underneath. Is this correct? And the answer again is yes, this is correct. So there you go. The hemispheres and they look like a desk bell, portholes on the upper portions. Very cool. Were these constructed in time-space or space-time? And so they say, we ask your persistent patience because we have to give you a complicated answer. A construct of thought was formed in time-space. This portion of time-space is what approaches the speed of light. And time-space, remember, is the afterlife plane. It's the plane in which ghosts exist. It's the plane in which the rules of space and time are inverted. Time becomes three-dimensional. And they can flip-flop in between the two. They can work between the world of the living and the world of the dead interchangeably. It's a very cool aspect of what happens when you get into these higher dimensions, that we don't have the ability to do anything like that right now, but they apparently do. So just so that we have that clear. In time-space, at this approach, the conditions are such that time becomes infinite and mass ceases. That's exactly what I was telling you is how it works. That you lose your mass is turned into, the physical matter is flipped inside out, and then you are able to skim the boundary strength of time-space, and you can place yourself wherever you want. Once you go through this, the same thing that I believe Dr. Salvatore Pais calls the superforce, where all the laws of physics start to blend together, that is the time-space boundary. As you reach light speed, time becomes infinite and mass ceases. And then you can place yourself where you want to go. At that level, you can generate mass with consciousness. That's what they're saying. When we were where we wish to be, we would then clothe the construct of light, which would appear as the crystal bell. It's very cool that the bell is this thing that appears as a result of them clothing it in light through the time-space boundary. Very, very interesting, huh? This was formed through the boundary into space-time. Thus, there were 2 constructs, the time-space or immaterial construct and the space-time or materialized construct. Okay, so now what I want to do is jump ahead to talk about Saint Germain in the 1700s, because this is an entity who shows up and he's got the ability to materialize objects. He can materialize gemstones. He can write ambidextrously. He had this weird little box that he carried around with him. And, that probably was some type of time cube where he could pull things out from time-space, materialize objects, look through time, that kind of thing. Similar to the Roswell cube. And he appeared to Voltaire. He appeared to, apparently, the founding fathers, and actually helped found the United States of America. So Voltaire wrote him a very important letter that appears in my books, Michael Prophecies, in which Voltaire says, that he saw Saint Germain with his lovely flying machine, and how I'd love for you to come back in your flying machine again. Well, Voltaire illustrated Saint Germain's flying saucer in his book. So this is the illustration from like the late 1700s of the craft that Saint Germain was traveling in. And this is really interesting because what does this reveal? This reveals that there are human-looking beings inside these craft, that they can actually intervene in various times in history. They actually intervened because Saint Germain met up directly with Benjamin Franklin and apparently had the direct ability to transmute silver into gold. That would carry a lot of attention, right? You have a silver coin, he turns into a gold coin, becomes worth a lot more. Sage, mystic warrior, thank you very much, Darius J. Wright. He's talking about that. Teaching people how to go out of body, da-da-da-da. Thank you very much for the donation. Saint Germain was also able to transmute smaller diamonds into a larger diamond. That's another really cool ability that he apparently had. As I said, he could write ambidextrously. He also composed and played violin very well. And he would wear expensive gemstones on his clothing that he was materializing. And he would talk about various historic epochs as if he had actually lived there. So this was a very interesting figure because he's showing, he showed Voltaire his craft. You see what it looks like. It was another one of these bell craft. So this would be an example of a positive so-called Confederation entity. And again, this is a historic case that eliminates this idea that all ETs are bad. He claimed also that he was Merlin the magician during the time of King Arthur. And on July 4th, 1776, he appeared in the signing of the Declaration of Independence and gave a rousing speech, again in my books. You can get them off of the link in the description, where he basically inspired everybody to rise up and sign the Declaration of Independence, knowing how dangerous it was. So Saint Germain is awesome. And again, in my next paid program that we got coming up, I'm going to be talking about him even more. But again, the point is he was a human-looking being.